It's worth wait. Okay, so this relationship is interesting because it's saying it's worth waiting for, but the changes that you have to initiate, or the changes that you're going through, guys, individually, is giving me a headache. Not because it's like, you guys are stressed out and it's frustrating, it's annoying. It's just so intense. With death coming up, that's scorpionic energy. So automatically I'm feeling it like, wow. In my face, it hurts. Like, it's like you guys are like changing and adjusting and letting go of things that you honestly, that had given you solace for a while, right? This has given you an ability to move on from difficult situations. But this is letting go of, past disappointments. This is making space because you guys are presenting yourself as the Ace of Pentacles, as in, ready to start a new beginning, something that's actually, that can lead to long-term commitment and stability. This is a really big beginning. This is a beginning that can last, not a beginning that can last a long time. This is the beginning of a process that can go for a long time. That can go for years, potentially. Because you're putting down roots. You're making progress in the sense of, creating, long-term, like long-term foundation, like you're building stuff. I'm having a hard time finding words, but saying this is a committed relationship here. This is a relationship that can go far longer than just like let's just see how it works kind of thing. Because you do have intentions to potentially, build a legacy with this person. Get married, have kids, have grandchildren. You are trying to move beyond the stage of let's just see how it goes to let's build something that's substantial that can honestly, that could carry on through lifetimes. So, but it's going to require you to release them too at the same time. I think you guys are having to release them, but even though you know that you're showing them and you're ready to start putting in the work necessary, and some of you guys, this person's already in your life, but there's some old stuff that you have to like get rid of because you do want to start this new beginning. You're avidly changing and transitioning your life and transitioning your own mindset because you see the potential for great happiness in this relationship. You see that this person can go with you down so many paths, so many things. Like, you guys see each other as, something amazing, because the sun is telling me this. Even though you guys go through constant struggles of feeling left out in the cold, not feeling like you guys, like there's some things that you guys both suffer with in regards to not just material finances or like material things, but mostly emotional, because I feel like you guys have struggled in your life and have gone through difficulties in your life, and you guys get each other in that range. You guys get each other that you guys are always fighting. You guys always have to hustle. Like, that's the hustle. Like, I feel like the Five of Pentacles is the hustler card. You are hustling here. And not in the sense of like, just trying to make a buck or anything. You guys are trying to survive. And I think you guys understand each other in that regard, right? You guys are trying to survive. But at the same time, I feel like you guys have had instances in your lives where you guys never felt like anybody really got you. And you felt like you've always kind of felt left out in the cold because, there's not, people didn't spend enough time with you to really see how you were. Nobody really kind of got close enough to you. Nobody could commit long enough to really see that side of you that you don't really let other people see. That vulnerable side, that side that shows that pain, that shows the struggle. And you guys seen that in each other. And I think that's awesome. But the challenge now is the Seven of Cups. And I'm like, so the challenge is figuring out what path you guys are going to take, what dreams you guys are going to pursue. Because I think there's two things, right? There's the ego, the Aries, right? This is that card for Aries, the Emperor. But this is not because of you, Aries, that's the problem. I think it has to do with the ego, right? What everybody wants to prove to themselves. I think everybody's stubborn. And I think that's why death is coming up for you, because I think you guys know that in order for there to be, anything with you and this person, you have to let go of that egotistical part that's, that wants to stay the same, that wants to keep things the way they've always been. Right? But then, because I think you guys are already understanding that, but this person here, like, I didn't even touch on them, but the Seven of Swords, like, I think they've taken a leap of faith or taken a risk too, But the hard part for them is that they're leaving behind their, this challenge is getting over the stubbornness as well. Right? They have to overcome their stubbornness. And I asked, in what regards is the Seven of Cups coming up for you guys as a challenge? And it's it's temperance. It's pursuing your own happiness. It's picking a path that makes you feel that really connects with your heart, like personal projects. Making yourself stronger individually. Because temperance isn't just a card of harmony and balance, right? Because I think that's part of it too. You guys want a harmonious, balanced relationship between you and this person without the fighting of of the ego. And I think that's part of it, but I think it's also leading your life in the way that you guys want to personally. What are your other dreams, your other aspirations? Because you guys work together to overcome a lot of struggles. I think this is about an individual thing now. This is about individually finding your way, finding what makes you happy, and not needing the other person. Is recapturing that independence. So, that said, I think this person here is the Seven of Swords. This person either snuck away or sneaking away. This person is taking a leap of faith, right? This person sees this as a very huge risk. A huge risk that they're not even sure that they're willing to take. Because why? Remember, we have the Nine of Wands as your underlying energy. And as you just seen here, underneath that is the Nine of Pentacles. Staying in your comfort zone. That's the Nine of Pentacles is comfort zone. Nine of Wands is defensiveness. Now, at the same time, the Nine of Wands does talk about somebody not giving up on the situation. There's a lot of stances that y'all can take here. You could take, like, you're not giving up in this relationship, so therefore it's willing, you see this as worth waiting for. Same time, this person may be feeling like they're not letting go of their of what made them independent, which is that Nine of Pentacles, that's comfort zone. And this is probably why this person is so defensive, because they know that a part of them doesn't have to have that guard up, that doesn't have to have that whole thing up, but they also isolate themselves doing that. They keep the good and the bad stuff out. They can't prosper that way. The Nine of Pentacles is like, yeah, you've gotten yourself to a really good start. But in order for you to have a new beginning and start something new, you have got to let that boundary down. You got to let that wall down. You can't just have it your way all the time. And it's not a bad thing to have it your way, but there is a need to compromise here. Especially if you want a new beginning, if you're tired of being bored. Because I get that sense too. Like, somebody here in this relationship is bored with how things are, and they know that there's a risk out there that probably is worth taking, but they're not sure because they are not coming from a place of seeing prosperity. You're looking at the situation as, I don't want to lose what I've already built. I don't want to put myself in a situation where not just that I rely on people, which is not the case. You don't rely on anybody in this relating. Like in a relationship, you don't rely on nobody. It's a plus to put your trust into someone else, but you don't have to. I think that's the thing that this is kind of getting a little too, everybody feels like they're made, at least not this, Leo, Aries. I don't see this from your part. I see the other person feeling like, they may lose themselves in a sense, or they may lose that sense of individuality. That's not the case. They're a strong individual. I can see that, but their resistance is denying them happiness, and they know it. Why? Because how they're presenting themselves is the Lovers. Now, the Lovers is not the balance between your head and your heart. That's the Chariot. But this is the cross between your head and your heart. Meaning, this is your mind trying to figure out ways to either not or to accept what you love. Right? The heart already knows what it wants. The heart knows how it feels. But that mind is always trying to come up with reasons and come up with, kind of double check. And both parts are really good at what they do, right? But the part about the Lovers that makes it not a choice is more of the part about the Lovers that makes it not a choice is that your heart already is in love. Your heart already knows what it wants. It's the decision is made. The mind is like always double checking, always second guessing, always thinking too much, overthinking the situation. Sometimes your heart will maybe leap too forward or leap too much because you know what you want, but your mind is like, but of course you may be going, it's that really weird thing, right? Where the dynamic is that sometimes you can overthink a situation, even though you know what you love, you can always overthink it. And the flip side of things, you can always, go too carried away, be impulsive and follow your heart, but not really make sure this is exactly what you want. Really make sure this is to the T what it is that you actually want. And I feel like it can play out those two ways for this individual, but mostly because the Seven of Wands is in the space of their mind, right? How they think of this relationship. Their mind is really, keeping them from really allowing themselves to love, allowing themselves to be open like that. So this person has to trust themselves being in love, being in a relationship. And the lovers can indicate that there's a distance too. So either you guys are together right now, or are physically separated, or or have a distance between you and them. Like this person has to just, overcome the resistance to this relationship that makes them fear losing their independence, losing their individuality, losing their sense of self. You may be dealing with another Aries, but I just feel like this person is dodging it. But they know this is something that that they can't truly tell if it's worth the effort. The Seven of Cups rather, does indicate that things can look a little too good to be true. But that is, it's too hard to tell from at a distance. You kind of have to just kind of take the leap of faith to see how it goes. The reason why they're showing up as the lovers, and the reason why they're thinking the way they think with the Seven of Swords, is the world. Unfinished business. Things are not done. Things are not over. They're holding up their wall like, no way, we're not giving up yet. But at the same time, they're still sticking around. Like if they were truly done, they would be done. But they keep coming up in this reading. They reappear. They still talk to you. They still communicate. There's something here that's a sign that still shows that they're still around. They're not completely gone. And I feel like it's just like they have gone through some difficulties too. You guys remember, what brought you two together was a difficult situation. The Five of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles shows that. And I feel like this person is dealing with the aftermath of that, right? They're having to learn to trust again, to be vulnerable again. They feel like, they're having to kind of, take that risk with love again. And that's scary for them. It's hard. They build up defenses to protect themselves. And it's surrounded by their ideals, their principles. They've built a foundation for themselves that made them feel secure, and they have to understand that security and that strength, that sense of independence and individuality doesn't ever leave. And I think they need it. They feel like if they're in their own space, they'll be fine. But they're denying themselves love. It could be you too, to be honest. It could be you too, Aries. Because death is not an easy energy. I do see that some of you guys are really opening yourselves up to love. Opening yourself up to a new beginning. The sun there is like beaming in my face. It's like, yes. It's tough because you guys understand what needs to be forgiven, what needs to be released in order for there to be space and for that person to come in to create something with you. And I feel like this person may not be resisting at all. They may be taking the risk, are in love, and they accept love. They accept the relationship fully, and they feel like this relationship is a success, and they feel like this relationship is something that is a gift for their hard work and their dedication of growing themselves, right? But in this person on this side, the death card being in the mindset, they could be having a hard time releasing the old stuff, so that way they can, embrace a new beginning, right? They may be at the brink of starting something new, but they understand that what has to go to make this dream come true is the very things that they've, that, like I said, has gotten them through hard times. That mindset, that belief, the hustler mentality. Some of you guys may have that, some of you guys may not. Whatever belief or whatever perspective they've had, it was needed and it was used for the thing, for the path that they needed it for. It's not needed now. And I think that's the hard part. That's probably why this person's resisting. This is probably why this person may be having a hard time releasing that part of them, which is the ego, right? Feeling like they have to kind of, continue to survive when they don't need to. This is not survival anymore. It's about prosperity now. You know what I'm saying? So I think this person is going through a change. Both parties here are going through changes. That's the world. The death card indicate changes, and it's the temperance card and the worth waiting for that with that romance angels card. Yeah, if you believe that this person is something that's worth investing in, you see value in this individual, you see value in the growth of this relationship. Wow, damn. Then it definitely is worth waiting for, and it's going to require you to remain not vigilant, but to keep the endurance going, like keep pushing forward. You guys have here challenge your perspective. Okay, rarely see that card, That's awesome. Let me go ahead and see what it says here. Alright, challenge your perspective. You cannot challenge an outdated perspective or one born from a lack of understanding if you're unwilling to put aside your feelings and beliefs and embrace another's point of view. To do so makes you aware of the whole and stands you up on high, where you can see that both parties involved in a dispute can act against an injustice. Both can be right, both can be wrong, and what one perceives to be hurtful may be seen as both healing and beneficial by the other. So basically what this is saying is like, don't come at this with your own perspective, with just one. Try to understand both sides. And I think that's why I was like, the ego is the biggest problem, because everybody's coming from this situation from where they can see of their own, where they're coming from. And of course, you've gone through struggle. The soulmate's gone through a struggle. What brought you two together was the struggle. But you have to understand that that person may not have the tools or the equipment, or maybe the realization that they are struggling with that struggle. Of course, this is not to say that you're the person to bring to their attention, right? It's not saying that you need to be the person that can bring it to their attention. It's not to say that you're the person that has to show them the way. This is not to say that this soulmate is the person that's going to show you the way. But the situation is saying like this situation is a personal matter, I feel like, for both parties. But don't be mad at the other person for going through whatever they're going through and handling it the way they feel they need to handle it. Of course, understandably so, right? If it was bad and the way they did it was just disrespectful, of course, conversation is needed. But this is saying seize the situation from both sides. Your 7th house is Libra. Aries, coming from a Libra herself, you guys are better at relationships than Libras. And this is because you guys come from the situation from your own perspective, but you guys can also relate to your partner better, right? Because your 7th house is Libra. So that being said, right, this is your opportunity now to tap into that 7th house Libra, and see the other person from the other side, to get an understanding as to why they're reacting this way. Doesn't mean that that's condoning their actions, but it gives you some perspective. It helps you to understand where they're coming from, so that way you guys can come up with a balance and a way to really make this relationship work for the best for the both of you, to really put down a solid foundation. To make this reality, make this dream of working together or being together no longer just a dream, no longer just a pipe dream, making it a reality.